Okay, let's get right into it. You have a company website, you know it exists, but when you search for it, or maybe more importantly, when a potential customer searches for what you offer, it's just, well, it's not there. It's not showing up in search engines like Google. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly frustrating for businesses.
Especially if you rely on search engines to connect with your audience, a huge chunk of potential visibility just gone.
It absolutely is. I
Yeah.
mean, a website is often the digital foundation, right?
Yeah.
And if search engines aren't sending people there effectively, you're missing out big time.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack why this happens, but we're doing it through a very specific lens.
Right.
Our source material for this deep dive is a list of 20 common reasons. It comes from content marketing and web development expert Pavel Presemnu.
That's right.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to take this specific experts list and really understand the why behind each point. Why does it block visibility? What's the actual impact, according to Pavel's view?
Yeah, and what should you, the listener, really take away from each of these factors he's identified?
Exactly. It's about understanding these specific points for anyone relying on search.
So this isn't like every single possible reason under the sun.
No, definitely not.
But it's one expert's focus breakdown of 20 key culprits. Understanding these, as Pavel lays them out in the source, is pretty crucial if you're navigating online visibility.
Let's unpack them then.
Okay, let's start with the fundamentals. The things often controlled right on the website itself, or, things that are integral to its core. Pavel's list kicks off with reason one, the unoptimized page.
Yeah, this is foundational stuff because if a page isn't speaking the right language, search engines, well, they just struggle to figure out its purpose and relevance.
Right. Pavel's source gets specific here, things like low keyword density, meaning the key terms people search for just aren't there naturally or not enough.
Or a poor page title. That's the title tag, the thing you see in the browser tab. Super important.
If that's generic or missing keywords, big miss signal for search engines and for users.
Absolutely. He also points to missing meta tags, like the meta description. That's the little snippet in the search results.
If that's blank or just irrelevant, it doesn't exactly make you want to click, does it?
No, and it doesn't signal the content clearly to the search engine either.
Plus, unfriendly URL structures. There's messy web addresses instead of clean descriptive ones.
Yep. And slow page loading speed is listed here too. If people or crawlers have to wait too long,
They're gone.
they're gone. And missing structured data, that extra context, like product details or maybe event times, which helps engines understand specific content types better.
So the impact, according to this expert, is pretty direct, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Reduced visibility because the page isn't understood, fewer visitors,
Mm-hmm.
and, well, a low chance of ranking well for relevant searches. Maybe not ranking at all.
Okay, moving to reason two on Pavel's list. Insufficient content. It emphasizes that search engines, and users too, they're looking for substance.
Exactly. It's not just about having some text on the page. Insufficient here means not enough detail to be really comprehensive.
Like not enough depth.
Right. Or missing structure, like headings, paragraphs, things that break up information and make it readable. And lacking multimedia images, videos, stuff that adds value and keeps people engaged.
Pavel's source specifically calls out outdated content as an issue too. Which makes sense. It can make a page seem less credible or just not relevant anymore.
And content that doesn't actually answer the user's question. If someone lands on your page and, doesn't find what they need quickly,
They bounce.
they bounce. The impact is significant. Search engines tend to favor comprehensive resources, so thin content usually means lower positions.
Which means less organic traffic, lower user engagement because there's just not enough there.
And ultimately, higher bounce rates. Users leave fast.
Which ties directly into reason three, insufficient keywords. As Pavel lays it out, it's not just having content, but using the right words effectively.
He highlights a few angles on this, like a low keyword range. Maybe you're not covering all the different ways people might search for your stuff.
Or low keyword density. The terms are kind of there, but maybe buried or just not prominent enough.
Exactly. And missing them in key spots beyond just the main text. Think headings, internal links, image alt text. Those matter.
Pavel's list also mentions the flip side, using keywords unnaturally, like just cramming them in.
Yeah, he calls it keyword stuffing, which is a big no-no. It can actually get you penalized.
So the consequence here is fundamental then.
Absolutely. Lower visibility, because search engines just don't see that clear link between your page and what people are searching for.
Okay.
It severely limits your ability to attract that organic traffic.
Okay, let's jump down Pavel's list a bit. Reason 14, poor page structure. This is more about the internal organization, the layout of the page itself.
Yeah, think navigation and hierarchy. If the navigation's confusing, users can't find what they need. Simple as that.
And if the content hierarchy isn't clear, important stuff gets lost.
Right. Pavel's source even calls information overload itself a structural problem. Too much clutter, too confusing.
And critical info being missing or hard to find, like contact details or, your main products not being obvious.
He also brings up suboptimal URL structure and poor use of tags and structured data again here. It shows how these technical bits really play into the overall structure people experience.
And the impact.
Well, it's a really poor user experience, which search engines are paying more and more attention to. It makes it hard for their crawlers to understand the page layout, too.
Leads to frustration, people leaving.
Reduced engagement, and yeah, it negatively affects your SEO, definitely.
Okay, reason 18 on the list. Erroneous metadata settings. We touched on meta descriptions, but Pavel stresses just how crucial these snippets are, the title and description in search results.
They really are your page's little advertisement in the search results list. If your meta title and description are wrong, or generic, or just poorly written.
They misrepresent the page.
Totally. Which means, according to the source, reduced relevance. The snippet doesn't match the search query well. A poor display, maybe it pulls random text instead of your description.
Reduced user appeal. I mean, why click if it doesn't look relevant or interesting?
Exactly. Limits your targeted traffic potential. And it can even reduce credibility if the info shown is just plain wrong.
So Pavel emphasizes focusing on relevant keywords in the title and making those descriptions compelling but concise.
You got it. Make the most of that small space.
Okay, wrapping up this sort of on-page section, reason 19, insufficient internal link structure. This is about how pages on your own site link together.
Right. As Pavel explains it, internal links aren't just for users clicking around. They're critical for search engines, too, for discovering, crawling, and understanding how your pages relate to each other.
So if that structure is weak,
search engines can actually struggle to find all your content. Some pages might just get missed.
So the impacts listed include reduced content indexation pages simply not getting found by crawlers.
Yep.
Difficult navigation for users, which again leads to frustration. And uneven distribution of page authority. Valuable internal links, not pointing link juice towards your most important pages.
This limits your keyword reach across the whole site.
And, crucially for a business, it can mean lost sales or conversions if users aren't guided effectively to, say, product pages or contact forms.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the elements directly on the page and how they're organized. Let's shift gears a bit. Look at the underlying technical foundation. That needs to be solid for search engines to even interact properly, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pavel's list includes reason 5, technical problems. Now, he lists this after some other points, but it really makes sense to talk about the technical base here, the nuts and bolts.
Okay. What kind of technical hitches does the source specifically call out?
It's a range. Slow page loading speed comes up again. It's a core technical issue impacting users and crawling.
Right.
Bad pages, like those 404 errors page not found. Unoptimized URL structure gets another mention, reinforcing its technical nature. And errors in the actual code, HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Yeah, if that's broken, it can mess up the display, the functionality, or even make it impossible for search engines to read the content properly.
Makes sense.
Non-optimized display on mobile devices is listed too. Responsive design is basically essential now. And then just a general lack of fundamental technical SEO elements. Things like proper HTML tags, meta tags again, having a sitemap, correct robots.txt setup.
The impact sounds pretty severe.
It is. These problems are major obstacles to functionality, performance, and ultimately visibility. They discourage users, pump up that bounce rate, and significantly hurt your rankings and indexing chances.
Which brings us neatly to reason 20, non-existent sitemap. Basically, failing to give search engines a clear map of your site.
Exactly, like trying to navigate a city without a map.
And what happens if you don't provide that map, according to Pavel?
His list is clear. It makes it much harder for search engines to discover and index all the pages on your site. You lose control over indexation. Crawlers might just find pages randomly or miss important ones entirely.
Sounds particularly bad if you're adding new content regularly.
Precisely. Discovering new pages becomes slower, less reliable, It just reduces the overall effectiveness of your whole SEO strategy and limits your own view of your site structure.
Hmm.
Pavel, including this, really highlights how sometimes the most basic technical things get overlooked.
Okay, now this next one. Reason 6. Search engine blocking. That sounds counterintuitive if you want to be found.
It absolutely can be a huge problem if it's done by accident or just incorrectly. This is when you're actively telling search engines not to crawl or index parts of your site.
What are the ways Pavel lists for doing this?
Well, configuring the robots.txt file is a big one, blocking specific folders or pages. Using the noindex meta tag on individual pages you don't want showing up in results.
Okay.
Sometimes blocking crawler IP addresses, or simply having content behind a password login that crawlers can't get past. He also notes that some complex content generated purely by certain types of JavaScript can sometimes unintentionally make pages hard for crawlers to evaluate or index properly.
And the impact of this blocking, intentional or not?
According to this source, it has serious consequences. Drastically reduced visibility for whatever content is blocked, loss of organic traffic that would have come to those pages, and just making that content unavailable to users searching for it.
So it needs to be used very carefully.
Extremely carefully, only for content you are absolutely sure you don't want indexed. Ever.
Right. That covers the technical underpinnings. Now let's shift focus again, away from the stuff on your site to what happens off the site that still influences your standing. Pavel lists reason 4 fairly early, but it seems to fit well here in this off-page world. Bad backlinks.
Ah, yes. This is a critical external signal. Not all links pointing to your website are good for you. Some can actively harm your reputation with search engines.
What kinds of links are flagged as bad in this source material?
Links from really low-quality sites, think spam blogs, pages with dodgy or inappropriate content. Those reflect poorly on you just by association. Excessive or unnatural anchor text, like using the exact same keyword over and over and over in the link text, that looks manipulative.
Right.
Paid or clearly artificial links are called out as violating search engine rules. Links from sites that are already known spam or have been penalized themselves that negativity can transfer.
And the flip side, too.
Yeah, Pavel also notes a lack of relevant, authoritative links is bad. Search engines really value links from credible sources in your specific field.
The impact sounds pretty significant.
It is a direct negative hit to your visibility and your credibility. Search engines might even penalize your site. Pavel's list stresses that you need to monitor your backlinks, get rid of the bad ones if you can, or disavow them, and actively work on building quality ones.
Closely related seems to be reason 17, lack of page authority. This is about how credible, how trustworthy your website seems overall.
Exactly. Pavel's source describes authority as something search engines evaluate over time. It's influenced by several things. Quality of your content that ties back to reason 2 we discussed. Quality and relevance of your backlinks connecting directly to the bad backlinks point, reason 4.
Okay.
Also, your participation in online communities, relationships with others in your industry, your general online reputation. It all feeds in.
So it's built up from many different places. And if you lack that authority...
You're likely looking at lower positions in search results. Search engines simply trust you less. Users might trust you less too, which is engagement.
Makes it harder to get good links in the future.
Definitely. Limits your organic traffic. Makes competing with established authoritative sites much, much harder. Building authority is really a long game strategy.
Okay, reason 9 is lack of social media presence. How does not being active on social media hurt search visibility, according to this source? It feels a bit indirect.
Well, Pavel's list positions social media as a key place for connection, communication, sharing content with a wider audience than might find you directly through search initially.
And not being there means...
limited reach and visibility for your brand and your content. You're basically missing out on where a lot of potential users are spending their time.
lower user engagement, too, I suppose. Fewer shares, less interaction.
Right. Fewer opportunities for interactions, shares, conversations about your brand, limited branding opportunities in general.
Yeah.
And importantly, less potential website traffic that could be driven from social platforms when people share your stuff.
Plus, you lose a competitive advantage if your competitors are active there.
Exactly. Pavel's view here seems to be that social media helps build relationships and awareness, which, indirectly supports factors that boost search visibility, like attracting links and traffic over time.
Which leads us to reason 12, low volume of inbound traffic. Pavel describes this as limiting reach engagement and conversion opportunities.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
It feels like low traffic could just be a symptom of all the other problems we've talked about. Bad SEO, weak content, no social media.
It absolutely is often a symptom, yeah. It really highlights how interconnected all these factors are. But Pavel's source also lists it as a factor in its own right.
How so?
The idea is if a site consistently gets very, very low traffic, search engines might interpret that as a signal of lower relevance compared to similar sites that attract more users.
Ah, okay. So it's a bit of a feedback loop, potentially. Low traffic is a problem, and it could also contribute to staying less visible.
Exactly. It limits your exposure and the potential for future traffic growth.
Hmm.
It really underscores how fixing the root causes the content, the technical stuff, the backlinks is key to breaking that cycle.
Right. Let's broaden our scope even further now to the external factors, the wider environment your website operates in.
Okay. The most straightforward external factor Pavel lists is reason 8, competition. He puts it pretty simply. If the competition in your niche is strong, it's just inherently harder to stand out and get high visibility.
And it points out why specifically.
Yeah, competitors might just be better optimized than you are. They might have way higher authority already built up. They might consistently put out higher quality content or just be more innovative with their online strategies.
So the impact is pretty direct. Reduced visibility because competitors are pushing you down the rankings.
Lower organic traffic because users find the competitors first. It gets harder and more expensive to compete for important keywords.
And potentially losing market share if users prefer what the competition offers.
Right. Pavel's point is clear. You just can't ignore the competitive landscape you're in.
Okay, reason 16 is localized search. This seems absolutely critical for businesses serving a specific geographic area.
Oh, definitely. This is where your site's appearance in search results is heavily influenced by the user's actual physical location. Pavel emphasizes needing to optimize specifically for those local queries, pizza place near me or plumber in Sheffield.
And having the correct geographic info on your site is key here. Address, phone number.
Absolutely. Address, phone number, maybe local business schema markup on your site. Consistent listings on other online platforms like Google Business Profile.
And if you're not optimized for local,
The impact is severe, according to the source. Limited visibility right where your potential customers are searching, losing out on that highly targeted traffic from local queries, and facing really stiff competition from other local businesses that are properly optimized.
Pavel also mentions international challenges.
Yeah, briefly touches on challenges in international markets. Different search engines being dominant like Baidu or Yandex, and different local search habits.
Okay. Finally, for this section, reason 11, limited search parameters. This sounds like it's about how the search algorithms themselves work.
Pretty much. Pavel's list reminds us that algorithms are complex beasts. They consider tons of different parameters to decide what's most relevant for any given search. If your site falls short on some key parameters, well, might not show up effectively.
What kind of limitations does he list?
Things like restricted keywords, if your content just isn't matching the terms the algorithm thinks are important for a query. Limited localization, again, tying back to reason 16. Limited personalization. Maybe your content isn't seen as relevant to a specific user based on their search history or demographics, although that's complex.
And he also brings in technical aspects again.
Yeah, limited technical aspects like loading speed, mobile friendliness, or structured data, connecting back to reasons 1 and 5 we talked about, and limited indexing, connecting to reason 20, the sitemap issue.
So the impact really spans visibility, reach, success overall.
Right. Pavel, including this point, basically highlights that you need to be aware of the diverse criteria algorithms use and try to adapt your site to meet as many relevant parameters as you can. It's not just one thing.
Okay, that brings us to the last group of factors, things related more to the website's stage of development or maybe the resources available. Reason 13 is straightforward, but probably frustrating for new businesses. New website.
Yeah, a brand new website basically starts with a blank slate. No history, no authority. Pavel's source points out that search engines inherently need time to discover, crawl, index, and then figure out how to rank new sites. It's just not instantaneous.
So low visibility right at the start is kind of
Yeah.
normal, expected.
Pretty much, yeah. Along with typically having very few backlinks or authority, connecting back to reasons 4 and 17, starting with low traffic, limited general awareness online, and potentially still having some technical hiccups, reason 5 again, that only get found after launch.
Pavel's list stresses that getting past this initial phase needs deliberate investment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Investment in SEO, marketing, creating quality content, promoting it, and constantly monitoring progress. It won't just magically appear at the top overnight.
And then there's reason 10, small marketing budget. Pavel identifies this as potentially a significant barrier. Why? Because money constraints limit your ability to fix many of the other issues on this list.
That seems to be the core idea, yes. According to his list, it limits your investment in paid advertising, like PPC, which can drive traffic while you're waiting for organic visibility to build.
Restricts access to professional SEO help or essential tools.
Exactly. Tools that help diagnose and fix technical or on-page problems. You can limit the resources you have for creating that high-quality content we talked about, reason 2, or running social media campaigns, reason 9, or investing in branding activities that build authority, reason 17.
So the impact is pretty direct. It limits the scope and effectiveness of your marketing, leading to lower reach and visibility compared to competitors who might have deeper pockets.
Correct. Pavel does note that, strategic planning, focusing smartly on effective organic channels, maybe seeking collaborations, using automation tools where possible, these things can help mitigate the impact. But it definitely remains a challenge.
Wow, okay. We really covered the full spectrum of those 20 reasons from Pavel Hryzmu's list. From tiny technical details on a single page all the way up to broad market forces and resource limitations. It really paints a comprehensive picture.
It does. And what becomes really clear when you look at this list as a whole, the way Pavel presents it, is just how deeply interconnected these factors often are.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Like a technical problem might stop indexing, so your great content isn't even seen. Insufficient content means you can't target enough keywords, which limits traffic. A lack of budget makes it harder to fix any of it.
So it's rarely just one single thing causing the invisibility.
Very rarely, I'd say. It's often a combination, and sometimes fixing one problem can have a positive ripple effect on others. But you need to find the right levers to pull.
That interconnectedness is maybe the biggest takeaway then. That website visibility isn't just about isolated fixes, it's more like a whole system where every part influences the others. Just like Pavel's list implies, by bringing all these diverse factors together.
Indeed. Diagnosing the problem effectively really requires looking holistically across all these potential areas laid out by this expert.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Pavel Hryzmu's 20 reasons why your company website might not be showing up in search results. We've unpacked everything from core on-page stuff and technical foundations to off-page signals, external factors, and those situational constraints, all based on the specifics in this one source.
It's definitely a valuable framework for understanding just how multifaceted achieving online visibility really is.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration of what might be holding your website back in search.
And, drawing from the sheer breadth of factors on Pavel's list, all the things that can change, algorithms, competition, user behavior, here's maybe a final thought for you to consider. Is it ever really possible to reach a state of being done with optimizing your online presence? Or is it fundamentally just an ongoing process requiring continuous attention and adaptation?